What's going on, everybody? Kalupa's Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the all-new Samsung Galaxy A13 5G. Now, this phone is currently only available with AT&T and AT&T prepaid, but that of course is going to change real soon. So in this video, I'm going to be going over some of the specs and features of the phone and giving you my general thoughts to help you decide whether or not this is going to be the right phone for you. Now, before we go any further, I do want to remind you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It helps out the channel a lot. But with that being said, let's get into the video. So this phone has a 6.5-inch PLS TFT display with a resolution of 720p, a PPI of 270, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and a screen-to-body ratio of about 81.1%. Now this is a pretty standard display in most regards. 6.5 inches, pretty normal size, 720p, nothing really special, but we do have a 90 Hz refresh rate, and in case you don't know what that does, that's going to make the movement on the screen a little bit faster and smoother. You can't really tell a whole lot from the video, but with the actual phone, when you're consuming content, playing games, streaming videos, that sort of thing, you are going to notice a difference. In addition to this, even though the display is only 720p, the image still does look really good. We got a water drop notch right up here for the front-facing camera, and this camera is 5 megapixels. Overall, I do think the phone has a nice modern look. The bezels are pretty thin, and the display is really bright too, making it a lot easier and more comfortable to see. So if you're doing lots of content consumption like streaming videos, viewing photos, playing games, even just reading, this phone's display is going to be great for all that. Another thing I like about the phone display-wise is even though it's decently large, it's not very bulky at all, so it's still going to be pretty comfortable to hold and carry around. Now for storage, this phone has 64 gigabytes of internal storage with microSD card expansion. So while it's definitely not as much as some phones out there that have 128, it's still a real good amount of storage, and for most people, it's going to be enough. In addition to this, of course, with microSD card expansion, you can use this to offload stuff like photos and videos, and some apps too, I believe. So as a result, you'll be able to put even more stuff on your phone. So even if you're a power user, this phone is still going to have a good amount of storage for you. Now there's no wireless charging with this phone, which is not really a surprise. We don't typically get that feature with lower end phones, but we do have a fingerprint scanner right here on the power key, and we're also getting face unlock with this phone as well. It's always nice to have both options because that way, if you're in a situation where you can't use the fingerprint scanner, maybe you're wearing a glove or something like that, you can still use face unlock and not have to put in your PIN. So we're going to give the fingerprint scanner a try and see how well it works. There we go, one more time. And there we go. As you can see, this fingerprint scanner works really well. It's real fast and responsive, so I have no complaints. Now taking a look at the rear camera setup here, we got a triple camera with a 50 megapixel main camera, a 2 megapixel macro camera, and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. So it's a pretty good setup. Unfortunately, there's no ultra wide. That's one feature I really do like to see in phones, especially a 5G Samsung phone like this. Typically, these phones tend to have better cameras than most. So it is a little unfortunate that we don't get an ultra wide camera, but on the other hand, the 50 megapixel main camera is definitely a nice thing to see. And to give you an idea of what this camera can really do, this is a photo taken with the main camera of this phone, and this really just goes to show that the camera can take some real nice photos. The colors look really nice and vibrant, and the lighting is good too. There's overall a lot of life in this photo, and it's just a random casual photo I shot outside. It doesn't really have any effort that was put into it. So if you really want to, you can definitely get some good photos with this phone. Now this photo was taken with the macro camera, and I'm not too terribly impressed with this one. I've definitely seen macro cameras from phones in this price range that are significantly better than this, but it's still usable. So if you do like to use a macro camera, you'll still get a functioning version of that feature with this phone. For video, this phone can shoot in 1080p in both the rear and front cameras. So with this phone, we're only getting 1080p, no 2K or 4K or anything like that. So as long as that's not really a problem for you, then it should be fine. Overall, camera-wise, I do think this phone can take some real nice photos and videos. So if you do want to take those things that you're going to be keeping for social media or something like that, or even just more basic stuff like sending to friends and family, Snapchat, that sort of thing, either way, you'll be able to do a lot with the camera on this phone. Internally, this phone is getting 4 gigabytes of RAM with the MediaTek Dimensity 700 5G processor. Now, I ran a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on the phone, and it came back with a single-core score of 467 and a multi-core score of 1111. Now, by entry-level phone standards, this is actually pretty good. Compared to a lot of phones in this price range, it is going to be quite a bit faster, and if you're just doing basic activities like sending text messages, making calls, browsing the web, going on social media, it's definitely going to get the job done. If you're not doing advanced activities per se, like gaming, video editing, and stuff like that uses a lot of RAM, but you're still going to be on your phone a lot, maybe you really like to use social media, or you're constantly browsing the web, streaming videos on YouTube and stuff like that, this phone is going to be really good for that type of activity. But if you're going to be doing more high-end activities like high-performance gaming and editing videos, especially longer videos, and doing stuff like that just generally takes up more power and RAM, you're probably going to want to look for a different device with a little bit more power, because even though for an entry-level phone this is decently impressive, I don't think it's quite enough to comfortably do those higher performance activities. Now, what I would suggest doing is running a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on your current device and comparing the numbers to these to see if this phone would actually be an upgrade, because it's really right there in between. It's not a slow phone by any means, but at the same time, whether or not it's really going to be a very powerful phone is really subjective, and it's really going to be based on what you currently have. Now, one area of the phone that's particularly impressive to me is the battery. This phone has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. This supports 15 watt fast charging. So if you're planning on using your phone heavily throughout the day and don't always have a lot of time to charge it, this is going to be a great battery for that, because not only is it going to give you a lot of life, but because of the fast charging, of course, it's not going to take that much time to charge up. Now, another benefit of having a large battery like this is the longevity. So down the road, all batteries are going to degrade eventually, but with this battery, since it's definitely a larger battery, you're not going to notice it in the phone's performance as quickly. So as a result, you'll be able to keep this phone for a much longer period of time without replacing it than if the phone had, say, a 2800 milliamp hour battery. So if battery life and longevity is one of the more important factors for you, this phone is definitely a good one to consider. Now, another really cool thing about this phone that I really like is that it has NFC. NFC is the technology behind Google Pay, so if you like to use contactless mobile payment services, this phone is going to be able to do that. Now, I really like this because not every phone has NFC, and especially in this price range, it's really hit or miss. There are lots of phones that are actually more expensive than this that don't have NFC yet. So seeing that this phone, being really entry level for a 5G phone, still does have NFC is a nice thing. So now that we've gone over some of the specs of the phone, let's take a closer look at the device itself. So on the left side here, we got the slot for the SIM card and the micro SD card. On the bottom here, we got a 3.5mm headphone jack, the microphone, a USB-C port, and the speaker. On the right side, we got the power key, which again is also the fingerprint scanner. We got the volume keys. On the top, we got a noise canceling microphone. On the back, we got our camera setup and our flash, and the Samsung logo right here at the bottom. The back is made of a matte finish that doesn't pick up fingerprints too badly, but for a matte finish, you can see them a lot more easily in the light than I would want. Overall, the material is okay, I would say, but it's definitely not the best. Even in this price range, I've seen better. In fact, I do believe the Samsung Galaxy A12 had a nicer feeling finish. But all the same, even though this phone doesn't feel very premium, the buttons are really sturdy, and that's one thing I do like to watch out for, especially on more entry-level phones, is how sturdy the buttons feel, and they don't feel flimsy or anything like that. And since the phone does look pretty nice, I don't really mind the design. But in conclusion, my final thoughts about the Samsung Galaxy A13 5G. Now, by far, this is not the best phone out there, not even the best Samsung phone, especially compared to other phones like the A22 5G and the A32 5G. I do think the higher level Samsung phones are a lot more high quality than this one, which really kind of does make sense when you think about it. But I am happy that they were able to give us a 5G phone at such an affordable price. And for what it is, I don't think it's really bad at all. If you're looking for a 5G phone for the price of an entry-level phone, sure, it doesn't have the strongest processor out there, or the most premium design, or the nicest features, because after all, this phone doesn't have a bunch of different notable features or anything like that. We're still getting a decent amount of storage, a really nice display, especially for just a 720p display, a really powerful camera, and a really large battery with decent fast charging. So overall, if you're not looking to do really high-end activities, but you do anticipate being on your phone a lot, maybe you're just going to be using social media, browsing the web, streaming videos, that sort of thing, and you also want a really nice camera that can take nice photos that you want to keep for something, and a large battery as well, the Samsung Galaxy A13 5G is going to be a good option. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you found this information useful as well. If you did, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And as always, I will see you in the next video.